And now I'm pleased to introduce you to our industry panel. This year, panel discussion will focus on leveraging your film and the film festival experience to start a career in the film business. Entitled aptly, Leverage Your Film Festival Experience to Launch Your Career, the session is led by renowned filmmaker, marketer, and distinguished instructor, Kim Edelman. Please enjoy the UCLAX Film Fest 2021 this weekend. And don't forget to vote for the Audience Choice Award below as well. You may vote until Saturday at noon. I will see you all on Sunday at 2:30 p.m. for the award ceremony, where we will also be giving away one free entertainment studies class for the fall. And now, please welcome Kim Edelman. Kim will introduce our panel. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. We're going to have a lovely hour to talk about the topic. And just so that everybody knows, I'll go ahead and read the panel topic and description, and then I'll introduce you to our panelists. We'll talk for about 20 minutes, 20 to 25, and then we'll throw it open to questions. But if you have questions while we're talking, throw them into chat and we'll collect them all, and then we'll address them all in the second half of this panel. So the topic of this panel, as Pascal mentioned, is leveraging your film festival experience to launch your career. So your short film is accepted into a film festival. What next? Short films are a calling card for filmmakers, and many aspire to make a feature as their next step in their career. This panel discusses the creative issues related to transitioning from short films to TV and features, including story, a new concept or an expansion of an existing short film, how to attract the best talent for available budget, the delights and challenges of shooting with a larger budget, and how to package your project to ensure it gets made. And we've collected 5 really talented experts in this field, and I'll introduce them, and then we'll just jump into the larger topic of leveraging your film festival experience. So is it possible that we could show all of our panelists through the magic of technology? There we go.
Hello.
Okay. We will, why don't I go ahead and introduce you individually, and then as I individually introduce you with one line of your biography, because you guys have such fabulous, so much credits that I can't introduce everybody in full, or we'd run out of time. But after I introduce you, if you wouldn't mind telling us a little bit more about yourself, how you're related to UCL Extension maybe, and then tell us your best advice for leveraging the film festival experience to help your career. I will also say that we're assuming most of you who have joined us are filmmakers, writers, directors, producers, but I'm assuming that there's a lot of cinematographers and actors as well. So we'll kind of address you as filmmakers, but we certainly would like to deal with actors as well, or cinematographers. So why don't we start with Joe? Joe Hooton actually was in your exact seat a year ago, where he won this festival's grand prize for his film US/MX. And he's now working in film and television development. Joe, do you want to tell us a little bit about your experiences in leveraging the film festival experience?
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. And I think if I'm just speaking from my experience, but if I were to kind of pick one simple piece of advice, it would be to just have a game plan, not only that aligns with kind of your aspirations and dreams as a filmmaker, but also with the industry as a whole. And so my project was a very kind of ambitious sci-fi action thriller. And so if I were, the goal was to make that short as a proof of concept. And but when I was going on to the festival circuit, I knew that to make that into a feature film, it would need millions of dollars. It was not kind of a small concept, like a small budget. And so for me, what I did, I felt was strategic, was I wrote a treatment and a pitch for the feature version of my script, but then I also spent my time immediately following it, writing an indie feature so that I have a finished script ready to go. If I meet producers, anyone that helps me want to get my projects off the ground, I can say, I've got the pitch for this big project that I'm taking on the festival circuit. And then I've also got this indie feature that's basically ready to go. in case I, come in contact with people that could help me. And then also just being ready for any of the other doors that might open. I also have my TV scripts ready to go if I meet people that can kind of help me get started in the TV space. And then I also have multiple shorts ready to go if someone's like, hey, I really loved your short, but I want to see what you can do in this genre or this space. So just having, I feel like a lot of us go onto the film festival circuit, like hoping that this like magic fairy is going to come down and just give us millions of dollars to do whatever we want. And that happens, but I don't think that's the norm. So it's just being prepared for any of those doors that might be opening along the way. So that's at least what I've been doing. So
terrific, thank you. Can I just technically ask, I'm not in charge of this technically, but is it possible so that we could just see the panelists all? So that we're not all in small cubes, but it jumps up?
You can go to gallery view now. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I think they're going to, I think they're working their behind the scenes magic, so this will work. Fabulous. Sorry for that little bit of technical thing. And thank you, Joe, for that fabulous information. Arkesh, why don't we have you talk next? Arkesh Ajay is a producer and a director known for a window of their own, of Malcolm, and Being Brian. He's also an Alfred P. Sloan screenwriting grant winner, which is very impressive. What advice would you give?
That's a good question. So first of all, again, thank you so much for having me here. What Joe said, I think is something that is what I've realized is also very crucial. I'll go a step beyond and say that as a filmmaker, you have to know yourself. What I mean by that is very often we enter film festivals hoping that the other people will know what I should be doing with my life. And they will tell me that, oh, you do this. And I'm like, oh, that's what makes my career. And I don't think that's a wise strategy to have. So I would say know thyself. And what I mean by that is not only what you want or what you want to do, but also be sure of what you do not want to do. Very often, there may be people who want to be writer-directors, but they don't want to work just as writers. Or there may be people who you may think that, oh, I am a writer-director, I'm an auteur, or whatever it may be. But there may be opportunities where people may be willing to look at you just as an independent writer. And so know for yourself whether you want to be considered for that, or is that something you don't want. So that we don't end up spending a couple of years doing something because a door opened. You're like, okay, that's the only door opening, I'm going to walk into it. And you walk into it, you spend 2 years doing that, and you're like, oh, this is not what I wanted to do. So know what you want, know what you don't want, and kind of have a game plan, have it written down so that you can remind yourself of that. And every meeting you take, or any person you may meet in a festival environment, keep that thing going on the back of your mind.
That's terrific advice. Thank you. Next, David Weiner. David is a business affairs executive at UTA and author of 4 books, including Amsterdam Exposed and Making It on Broadway. David, we have 2 Davids on our panel, as you've seen. So
we have David and David. So there will be no confusion. No, thrilled to be here. I've taught at UCLA for 13 years now. I teach every semester the legal primer for the entertainment business, and have taught for 20, and super passionate about demystifying this world, and to be honest, giving people skills that a lot of lawyers don't like sharing. So that's kind of what I'm all about. And I love this subject. One of my favorite students, who I think a bunch of you others might have had, Jean de Miron, actually got nominated for an Academy Award for his short, La Femme and the Tige Veux. And I remember him talking about that. He was one of the front row students in my class who got an A+ and was super locked in. And he leveraged that and is now working with Roland Emmerich as one of his developmental execs. So there are all kinds of things. And we think about, as a short of proof of concept. Sure, there are projects like Bottle Rocket, Office Space, Boogie Nights, Whiplash, Spy Kids, Napoleon Dynamite. Those all started off as shorts. But really, it's about everything else that follows. And I think when you go into making a short, it's really about recognizing that you're making a project that's not really tied to the box office. This is just the height of creativity. You're not concerned how it's going to perform. You want to show off what you can do. So I'll go really quick, but as I was asked this question, I came up with a short list of things that I think everyone should really consider if they really want to leverage the film. And I love my list, so This will be quick and we'll get into it. First
Don't
and
feel like
foremost,
you're rushed, but go for it. We would love to hear it.
I'm gonna do it all in 1 or 2 breaths, I promise. First of all, get a star. I mean, there's no better way of leveraging a short film than getting a star. And when you get the star in a short film, you could even work out ways of saying, hey, if this does get developed into a feature-length production, they're gonna be attached to that role. Now, sometimes financiers and directors don't like that because they don't want, they want maximum flexibility. But when you get a star and you put them in the short and then you get them behind it, recognizing this could be something bigger, then that's really the engine that could really drive not just the success of the project, but all kinds of relationships and all kinds of doors come swinging wide open because you have someone else involved in the project who has got the ability to open those doors and is taking you with them. So that's the first thing. Second, create a short that speaks to the times, that's relevant, that's addressing things that people in the industry care about. They're going to gravitate towards that. Third, learn the law, take my class at UCLA. You got to give your short a solid legal foundation. If you go in as an amateur and you don't get the music rights or you base it on some underlying rights which aren't yours, if someone does want to exploit it or turn it into something else or is considering that, and you haven't created your foundation, you're just sinking in quicksand and you've blown maybe the one opportunity you might get in your career to actually go and get your momentum going. Fourth, make it on budget. Particularly as a filmmaker, that's one of the things financiers are most concerned about. Have you created anything else before? And have you delivered on budget? Are you going to cost them more money than they originally thought or not? And, shorts can be great for leveraging your career because you can show someone, hey, they gave me $200,000. I made this for $150,000 and check it out, and I think that's really one of the key things financiers are concerned about. Are they going to get their money back and have a chance of making a return? 5, make sure it doesn't suck. And what I mean by that is don't just rush to get it done. Find the best cast you can, find good music. This is your one chance maybe in Hollywood to be creative and no one is going to stand in your way. Because again, it's not about box office or theatrical performance. It's what can you do? What is your vision? So really go for it. Like, don't hold back and make sure you realize that everything you do is an expression of yourself. Because just like we hear success stories of people creating shorts that really help their career, there are far more stories of people who create shorts that dig their own grave because it's just like, oh my God, I can't even listen to the audio on this. And this is atrocious, right? So you got to really make sure that it's a reflection of you. 6, read the rules of different festivals and make sure it's exploitable. Don't make it too long. Hopefully you know that. 7, most importantly with leveraging it, be strategic with your submissions. There's so many festivals out there and 95% of them do not matter. Nobody goes to them. And you might get a sticker on your cover, on your key art or something, but you want to try to get your short into a community where there are other filmmakers who could help your career. So really be strategic about that. And certain films want exclusivity, they want premieres. So you have to have a real solid philosophy and foundation going into it. Number 8, make it professional. Make sure your key art and everything around it is great because that's going to be your calling card too. 9, don't make too many shorts because you don't want to be professionally known as a short maker. That's not going to leverage your career. That's just going to label you as someone who makes great shorts. And I've circumstances like that have come across where it's like, okay, people are quick to label each other in Hollywood. And if you've done 40 shorts, I'm sure they're all great. But for some reason, if no one else has taken a chance on you by then, I'm not sure your 41st is going to make a difference. And 10th, don't spend your own money. All right. There are lots of ways to finance shorts and everything. But as a filmmaker, you really want to have that freedom to, I don't want to say take everyone else's money and run with it, but you don't want to have that additional pressure on you of having spent, you want to have all the pressure on you of making the best film. And having the freedom to have some kind of financial cushion to be able to stay creative. Because a lot of times people will spend their own money, deplete their entire savings, and maybe they have 1 or 2 other great shorts in them that could make the difference, but now they have to go back to their day job because they're pretty much bankrupt. So that's pretty much my quick top 10 list of things I would really be thinking about if I was concerned about leveraging my short film to the greatest extent possible.
Well, thank you. That was terrific. And we will go back and touch on some of those things as well, but it really gave us a nice overview of things to really think about. So thank you very much.
Cheers.
Next up is Ginny Tugin. who has produced some of the industry's most memorable franchises, the Free Willy trilogy, Lethal Weapon 1, 2, and 3, and HBO's Tales of the Crypt. Jeannie, what do you, I'm sorry, I'm gonna see
Jenny.
let's say Jenny properly, I apologize. Jenny, what advice would you give to filmmakers?
Wow. It's hard to follow up after all this
We're not expecting
information.
touchdown from you, don't worry.
And everybody else said it all already, and they said it really well. What I could offer in this conversation is something that happened to me personally when I teach a sort of an overview, a survey class on producing. It's a big producing 101 type class, and it takes you from what is a producer, because very few people know what that is, all the way through the making, the development, the making of the film, so on and so forth. And I've been doing this at Extension since 2014. Anyway, so after one class, one of my students, I think one of you mentioned this student who sits in the front row, who's got, who's paying attention.
A+ students, the best.
Right, exactly. He was there in the same seat, front row every week. Anyway, he came up to me when the course was over, and he said, I wrote a short script, would you like to read it? And so I think you can all relate that your first impression would be, okay, because we don't know what it is, and we're doing it because we like the student. We say, sure. So I took the script home and I read it, and it was amazing. And it was really, really good. And I was pleasantly surprised how good it was. And so I told the student, whose name is Miles, you may have had him in your class. Anyway, so I said to Miles, this is terrific. How can I help you? I'll just let me know if there's any way I can help you. And so to make a long story short, I ended up executive producing his short film. And it was really a fun collaboration. And it was really well made. He's the real deal. You kind of know who's going to go the distance and who doesn't. He's the real deal. We made a film that called Poppies, and it went on and won a ton of awards. And it was, and what I would offer and what made the story interesting is that it felt original. And it felt original in that it was an expression of something that he could relate to. And maybe I could too. It was a story about a young man and a workaholic. He was dialed in, plugged in, everything into his own world. And he gets on an airplane on a long distance flight from Shanghai to New York. And he sits down next to an elderly Chinese woman. And these two they're at first they're sort of annoying each other. They don't know why they had the misfortune of sitting next to each other. By the end of the flight, they have exchanged enough personal information to affect each other's lives. And so it is a beautiful story, and it was well cast, well produced. Now here's a challenge for anyone who's listening to this, that the story was beautifully cast, designed, but the whole story took place inside of an airplane. So we thought, okay, let's take this and see if we can expand it and use it sort of as a proof of concept, right? I've heard you talk about that too. So our challenge was, okay, great idea. What happens to these two people when they get off the plane? One's going to go to the Upper East Side and one's going to go to Chinatown. So what in the world would bring these two people together again? And that's the challenge that we're working on right now as we try to develop the screenplay, the feature length version of this. Anyway, so I share that story with you because you just never know what's going to happen or who's going to come on board, who's going to be a mentor to you, which is really important, I think. As a student, when you come off, when you graduate and you have a short film under your pocket, the next steps you take are going to be very important, and so a mentor is a really good idea. And I would also suggest, as I think I've heard, that you really want to already be working on your next project. And you really want to be able to kind of know where you're going with it, because the first meeting you're going to have is going to be, this is terrific. This got you in the room. What are you doing next? And you really need to be able to answer that question. And I think, Joe, you spoke to that very well, and that all the different kinds of projects you could have, TV, and to focus all of that energy so that the person you're talking to has an idea of who you are. And that's what I would recommend.
That's fabulous. And we will want to talk a little bit more about taking a project and developing it more. But let's go ahead and speak to our last panelist, last but not least, David Martin Porras. And he's a director and writer known for Inside the Box, Chain of Death, and Ida and Welita. I hope I didn't say that terribly wrong. Also, David has a project that is about to debut, and so he's going to have to leave us midway through the panel to go to his premiere. So maybe he'll tell us a little bit about that as well.
Yes, well, starting from the last thing, so everyone understands why I'm leaving earlier. Right now, in this moment, my last thriller is airing on Lifetime Movie Network. So yeah, my producers are hosting a screening right now. Everyone is on the other room, and due to COVID restrictions, we're just like very few people, and I'm gonna join them in a second. Wow, so many things have been said, and they're all so right, and I don't really know what else to add. So I'm gonna do my best. Well, first of all, for those who, I see some familiar names, but for those who don't know me, I teach the craft of the director at UCL Extension. I've been teaching it already for around 5 years. And I teach also the directing actors workshop, directing actors for the screen workshop. As for my experience with short films, which is our main topic here, my most successful short film was Inside the Box, with a pretty big star, Regina King. Actually, I totally agree with David. Getting a big star helps you a lot, to get the short film notice. And in this case, this short film was a proof of concept, or a teaser, even though it worked as a short film by itself, but it's based on a feature film script that I had already written, and it's helping us to get attention and getting people to read it, right? And yes, the first question that everybody asks, when they see the short is like, if we make the movie, would Regina be in it? And I said, yes. I mean, she's aware about the project, and so that definitely helps. Then regarding speaking of, when you're trying to pick the story you want to write about and you want to direct, I agree with things that have been said here. No, like, be in touch with your instinct, be in touch with your sensibility. Don't imitate somebody else, right? Don't go by the trends necessarily, right? Which is what it tells you, we're not looking for this right now. This is what people are looking for this right now. Okay, who cares? Because they're going to change that year or in 6 months. So who cares? Write about what it's important for you, what you care about, because it needs to burn inside of you for a long time. Elia Kazan said that every movie at the end of the day is a documentary about a human being, and that human being is the director. So, you're making really, every time you make a movie as a director, is you bring yourself into it, to be honest. Then when you make it into the festival, right, which is so hard, but so nice, when you finally make it, what do you need to do? Many useful things have been shared here, but I think two are the most important things for me. First, research what movies are going to be screened at the festival, and research the names behind those movies. Go to the screenings, and if you genuinely connect with that movie, go and introduce the people behind that movie, because you both have the same sensibility. You're going to sound genuine because you genuinely loved it. And the best way to network with people is to let them talk about themselves, because people love talking about themselves, right? We all do. So, if you do your research about these people, you will ask the right question. Like, oh, I loved, I want to know more about this other project that I read you're developing, or you will impress them. They will remember you, right? So that would be one thing. And then the second thing, when they give you the opportunity to introduce yourself and to talk about yourself, you need to leave that for last. Be ready to be succinct, right? And to go to the point. Who are you? And present yourself in a way that it's easy to remember. easy to remember. I'm a writer, director. These are the type of movies that I love, at least, of course, as writers, directors, we want to make everything, right? We want to be able to end our career when we're 85 or 90 and be able to say, I made a comedy and I make a period and I make a short, but, easy to remember. What do you want to do? And who are you? Don't say that this, the typical thing. I'm from Spain, I'm from France, I'm from Oklahoma, and I went to this school. And okay, that's boring, right? Just say something genuine, I made a movie about, how my sister, got an unwanted pregnancy, or I make movies because my mom is a pharmacist and I heard all my life crazy stories behind the counter, which is my story. So just say something people will remember, and in a different way, because they're going to meet a lot of people, right? And it's very easy to be forgotten, right? So that's why I think. So those are my three advices.
Oh, you guys, this was so wonderful. You gave such great information. And I'll just quickly introduce myself that I teach low budget filmmaking here at UCLA Extension, and I wrote the book, Making It Big in Shorts. So we're going to talk for another 10 minutes, but please, I encourage everybody who's joined us, if you want to ask any specific question, put it in the chat, because we're going to move to chat within 10 minutes. And we want to give you information that you specifically want. So anything you want to ask, feel free to ask and we'll do it. But as I mentioned, Joe, you're sitting in the, you are basically where everybody was a year ago. You were where they are now. Did you have hopes for your short film? Are you planning on expanding it in any way? And are you using it to launch yourself in either TV or film? And what experience have you had, or what advice have you had?
Yeah, well, I mean, so again, the idea from the start was for the short to make a short that is, can be a standalone story, but also is a proof of concept for a longer feature project. And so that is kind of the original goal with the festival circuit. We're on the festival circuit now. We've been on it since we screened with you all, and we're going to be continuing on it until probably the end of next summer. Just with all the COVID of it all, things have gotten pushed around and whatnot. So, I feel like the game plan, again, similar to my kind of first answer, is just trying to find someone who, might be interested in making a big sci-fi action thriller piece, but if not, finding, collaborators for the next project, whether it's this indie feature I have, whether it's these other pitches and ideas I have, or, finding representation. There's so much that can kind of come from the festival circuit. And again, I feel like just being prepared for all of it. So I would say the only kind of add on to that is just the virtual festivals. I think a lot of people have done really great with creating opportunities, but any in-person festival that, you get into, make sure you go to it, even if it's not the flashiest one, just because, those have been the best experiences thus far for us. It's where I've met people that might be interested in financing another project. It's where I've met, other collaborators, whether it's a composer or another writer, or, it's really hard to kind of replicate that. So take advantage of it and go and meet as many people as you can and have your pitches ready, I guess.
Is there any festival that you want to mention that specifically is kind of, you felt helped you in terms of moving on to TV or film?
Holly Shorts has been one of our best experiences thus far. It was really great, and I highly recommend kind of looking into that and trying to get in. It's been an odd hybrid thing. So we're going to be in the Emerging Filmmakers Showcase at the Cannes Film Festival next summer. We're really excited about that. They've already been really great with kind of connecting us to people and making some things move there. But yeah, I mean, one smaller in-person festival we just went to was the Scene Film Festival, which is in kind of Movie Maker Magazine's top 50 or so. That was a great experience.
What was it? Say it again, the name again?
Scene Film Festival was really great, but it's tough because a lot of them, it's hard to compare in-person, virtual, all of that. But if I were to single out one, I'd say Holly Shorts has been one of our best experiences thus far.
Thank you so much. So we did talk a little bit about moving a project on, but is there anything specifically for our panelists that you could recommend that you, other than having the script, of the feature film or the TV pilot based on the short. Is there anything else that you would recommend that filmmakers should put together if they want to go down the road of taking that specific piece?
I'll be a contrarian. I'm not really sure you necessarily want to have the full length screenplay done when you're pitching a short. I think that's a whole different process, developing a motion picture. I think a short needs to be understood as a very special art form of its own. And you aren't just creating it because you can't find enough money to make a full-length feature. You're creating it because shorts are beautiful, they're powerful. There's something about sitting down for 12 to 15 minutes and connecting with something in a visceral way that you're going to be thinking about it for days and months to come. And you know, when you are in the process of sharing that with people who might be interested in developing that further, sometimes if you've already kind of spelled out the whole screenplay, you limit their involvement in the project and their ability to come in and really collaborate and take it off developmentally in a way that they might want to do. There could also be rights issues, et cetera. So sometimes, yeah, sometimes you say, hey, here's the short, and by the way, here's the screenplay. But I think that could sometimes be a double-edged sword, and sometimes doing too much early developmental work, already creating a derivative work from a short before you've even really connected with who you're going to be doing that with and getting all their notes, could sometimes be a mistake.
Totally a great way of thinking. There's two different roads to go, definitely. Does anybody else have any thoughts about specifically putting together maybe a package or something to bring their short? Go for it.
I would say alternatively, and rather than having a feature-length script to walk into, which I agree can come back to bite you if it's not good enough or it's in the wrong direction. But a pitch deck, you know, a lookbook, if you will, something from a where someone can see certainly from a director's point of view, the style, the color, the look, the mood of the film that you want to make next. And it can be a short film. It can be another short. It can be another short. You might want to not certainly have a career, as I think you said, David, of having made 40 short movies, because then that's certainly your identity. But maybe there's another one, and maybe you want to do a few of them, get them under your belt, and prove that you know how to tell a story, move a camera, work with actors. I think when you go off into the real world, and you want to either work in television or film or whichever, from a director's point of view, people want to know that you know how to move the camera and how to tell. We used to look at director's reels and turn the sound off. And if the director knew how to move the camera to convey the story, that told us a lot, and a lookbook is another way of doing that. I think it kind of gives you an opportunity to profile the filmmakers, your intention, maybe a little marketing, stuff in there, but certainly from a visually a point of view. So it's sort of a visual treatment, I guess would be another way of looking at that.
And that needs to be just as professional, if not more, than the actual short too.
Okay.
And it's amazing how many times people present stuff to me and I look at it and it makes it look like they have all these famous actors attached because of the lookbook. And I'm like, so you have attachment agreements? Oh no, we met in the elevator and they thought it was cool. So you gotta it's
gotta be real.
Often we see stuff like that, or people in a short. I remember once I used to represent the band U2, and I went to go see a short back in the day, and all the music was U2, and I'm like, not quite sure the band would have really wanted to be a part of this one. So I went up to the filmmaker. I was like, oh no, we just use that and we'll get the rights later. You don't want to do that. I mean, little things like that because look, at the end of the day, to be blunt, short films are the kind of gateway for many people, not all, because it's its own art form in itself, but short films in many ways are a gateway into the professional industry, right? Where you're really going and making money. And so your job as making a short, first and foremost, is showing that you are a professional who can do your job and acts and carries themselves like a professional. And that's why we remember these front row students we've had at UCLA Extension over the years, because I mean, I've had students come into my class as professional as any executive would be in a major developmental meeting. you know, and when you take your studies seriously, this is a good segue to UCLA, right? But when you take your studies seriously in the space and department as a professional, and you learn what that means and your relationships with your instructors and your other colleagues, that's also a big step forward in being able to take the short, establish your professionalism, and have and give people the ability to have faith in you going forward.
Completely agree. And actually, you know, a lot of questions have been piling in, and I don't want us to run out of time. So I'm going to table my question.
4 hours, right?
Well, yeah, we're going to be here until midnight. That's the rule.
I feel like this is the Christmas special. We did not coordinate the red and black, but we are definitely, you know, looking sharp. So good for us.
So let me go for, and these questions are just as they come in. So they're not, might not be a, you know, thread to them all, but since there's so many different platforms that feature shorts, is there a way to sell your short to some of either of these platforms or networks? Which of course is a topic in and of itself. And we would end up spending a lot of time if we talked about selling our shorts, but it's a question, and I'd love to talk about selling your actual shorts to a network. Does anyone have any experience with that or advice about that?
Don't wait to get rich off selling your short. That's my advice.
Right.
I was going
You're
to.
not making the short to monetize it, really. You're making the short to build relationships, to get traction, to attract financiers. There's a whole long list of things you're doing.
Yeah.
But if you're waiting for a big payday, I mean, sure, Kim, you wrote the book on it, right? I mean, I'm sure there are platforms these days that are proliferating, and it's amazing that shorts are now getting distribution and more visibility than ever before. But all that means too is that there are more shorts being made than ever before. So it's been a very tricky thing to monetize, and I think you should look beyond that when making a short, personally.
Rakesh?
I was going to say kind of what David already put it beautifully, is that I wouldn't get too consumed in trying to figure out a strategy to sell a short, because even with the highest amount of money that you can get paid for it, you are not going to get paid enough. So it's you will end up wasting a lot of your energy into trying to navigate that when your short is largely what Jenny and David and Joe are pointing out, which is that it's your signature and it exists in the world because I can sit you down and tell you for 15 minutes who I am as a filmmaker, or show you my 12-minute short. And you will get a sense of who I am. If you remember the short, you will remember it for the, the time immemorial. And for, I haven't sold a short, but I'm familiar with a handful of filmmakers who have sold it to the best platforms out there. And it doesn't even come close to the budget that they had spent on the short. So I won't waste too much of my time.
Or like maybe 25,000 if you're lucky, I mean, probably not even that.
Probably not even that. Yeah. So I won't waste too much time. What happened for them, for who have been able to sell it, for more often than not, the sellers have approached them saying, hey, we would want to put you in a package with this and with these 4 other shorts, and we'll put it, and this is the money we're willing to give you. And it's almost has organically happened for each one of the filmmakers that I'm thinking of. So I would basically it's one of those things that if it happens, great. If it doesn't happen, don't think too much about it.
I will say this about selling shorts too, because I recently did sell one, but it was in the context of the project being developed into a larger production proof of concept. And when you do that, the short becomes its own underlying property, its own IP. So there has to be a separate option and purchase agreement for the short, as well as the producer agreements and maybe a writer agreement and director agreement. So there are ways, like if you're using it as a proof of concept, then absolutely there are ways of monetizing it in that concept. And you could get, between, I don't know, 50 or 150 or 200,000 for it, depending on where it's going, if it's being set up, at a big shop, because again, that becomes the underlying intellectual property that the other side, the financiers, need to go forward. So there are ways of turning it into something, but I think, as we've said, it really, shouldn't be your intention. And Joe, as you brought up earlier, I think the key for any short filmmaker is understanding what your intentions are, right? And what your expectations are, and understanding what success means, right? And success isn't making a lot of money, but success is making a great short that you're really proud of, that you're passionate about, that creates an experience that's worth watching. That's, I think, success.
The other thing I will say is there are some festivals that the prize is you get to be on HBO or something like that. And so if that's something you're interested in, look at the festivals that offer that as a prize. Also, if you can become an Academy Award nominee, easier said than done, but then there is a whole circuit that's set up to show the Academy Award nominated shorts and to put them on television and monetize them in many ways. So in that sense, the festival circuit is a nice launching pad. And then I throw it to Jenny.
Yeah, I just want to add something from a UCLA extension point of view. When students make their short films, they very often populate their film. They create a crew with other filmmakers who are in school. And so if you're a writer director and you find somebody who you get along with who's studying cinematography or production design or editing, you can start to form a team. If that team is successful and gets something off the ground, you'll find a lot of power in the familiarity and the shorthand that you've created with, communicating yourself during production. And very often that team sticks together to the next show and to the next one. And that's really cool because you don't know who you're sitting next to in class. You could be sitting next to the next, great cinematographer or editor or whatever, but the idea of the collaboration of students with a common goal of making a particular film and telling a particular story the best way you can, that's great. And you can take that way past, out of school and into your professional life. If it works, it works well,
100%. I'm going to go on to the next question. Not financing your short yourself was emphasized. How do you get the financing for your shorts? Again, another one, we could do a whole entire topic about trying to get financing for shorts, but does anyone have any recommendations of how you can get financing? Maybe using the festival circuit to get financing, to keep to our topic?
Let's have the filmmakers talk. How did you guys get financing for your films?
So, for me, it has always been, I went to the UCLA graduate film directing program. So a bunch of the money comes via school. And for me, the other times have been lucky that it was a project where somebody else was already bankrolling the thing, and I came in a little later onto it as a director. But one of the things that I would say is that today, in the last couple of years, a lot of opportunities where have mushroomed, like HBO has its own short film showcase thing going on. A lot of these programs have cropped up that are trying to, especially with a focus on diversity, with a focus on with correcting the skewed gender imbalance. So there is a lot of those opportunities that have come up. So I would say that if you're a filmmaker who is looking to flex that directing muscle, I would say look to how do you pitch yourself to, or how do you align yourself closer to those visions. But if that is not who you are, if it's a story that you are coming up with that doesn't align with somebody else's mandate, it gets a little hard. It gets a little more difficult. However, there is the Kickstarter and the Indiegogo and all of that exists, and a lot of filmmakers have been able to very successfully navigate that world. The good thing is, if you just go on YouTube and look for tutorials, there are filmmakers who speak about how they went about creating that plan for themselves to raise 10, 15, 20 grants from complete strangers. Again, it all goes, it kind of always is going to boil down to, can you get other people excited about what you are about to make or not? If you are going to make a film that is about, oh, this is a love story set on Mars, I would think that it's going to be a little more difficult to get, 200 people excited so that they put in like, $50 each to your film. But if you make a film, if you make a film that speaks to the zeitgeist, it moves enough people, then yes, I would say, oh yeah, that film needs to be made. I mean, if you make a film that I say that's urgent, I want to see that story and I want to see it now, I would be willing to part with $50. So it's trying to figure out what you want to do and really ask yourself, why do you want to do that? Which kind of, again, boils down to something that David said before he left, was that you really have to know your mind. You can't look at other filmmakers doing something else and be like, I'm going to do that, because that's going to change every 5 minutes, even for your own mind. So, and raising funds, it's going to take 6 months, a year, more than that. you have to like your script enough that you're going to do this day in and day out against all frustrations and against all odds. So yeah, really, really make something that you are passionate about rather than trying to figure out how it's going to happen, what's going to get you success.
I will also say, if you are crowdfunding, people you meet on the festival circuit can help you on the crowdfunding. So that's definitely how you can use the festival circuit that way.
Absolutely. There's one thing that I've realized is there are some producers who are very, very good at how to navigate that world. And the trick to that is very simple. Look at a film that has crowdfunded it successfully, see who the producers were, reach out to them and see if they're interested in your short or not, and if they can produce it with you. Kind of what Jenny was saying earlier on is that you're always looking for collaborators. They're not going to, they're not going to like angels descend in front of you. You will have to go out hunting for them. So festival circuit is a great place to do that, to reach out, look at other films that you like and go up to that crew and talk to them and see if they can, and it not necessarily that it's going to happen in that very moment. It can happen 6 months, a year, 2 years later. I've had people who, there's a short that I made, somebody watched it in 2017. I had no idea where they saw it. End of 2018, I was out with a different script, and as things go, it ended up on their desk, and they gave me a call, not before even reading the script. The script had nothing to do with the short. They saw my name, they Googled it, they realized I'm the same guy. So they gave me a call saying, I love that short. I'm about to read your script. We'll talk in a week. So basically, it's a game of patience. At the same time, make friends. I mean, partnerships will happen eventually. Just make as many friends as you can.
And keep your budgets tight.
Yes.
Skip the drone footage. You don't need a drone in every short. I know it's nice. We love it. There goes the drone. Whoa. But, people spend too much money on the wrong things when making shorts. And that often makes it that a lot of shorts don't get made or the money isn't put in the right place. So you have to be very strict. And budgeting is, I think there's some great classes in our department about budgeting for films and everything. But budgeting is one of the key considerations, because when you have a tight budget too, it's easier to generate money because you could show, hey, here's how we're doing this. We're efficient. We're doing this on a shoestring. And then of course you give those financiers, maybe an opportunity, right? If it's independently financed to come on and to finance the full length feature too, if they want to, if things go off in that direction. So there are lots of ways, and it's a subject for a whole nother panel, because everyone's got a different story behind every short about how they found the money, but keeping the budget tight. And as you said, speaking to the zeitgeist, and there are all kinds of nonprofits out there that have all kinds of money that are just sitting around waiting for some kind of short that could speak to their cause. And you as a filmmaker don't want to curtail your creativity or just do that just for the sake of getting the money, because then it's not going to be worth your time. Probably it's just going to be more of an advertisement. But if you do have a short that speaks to a certain subject that other people care about, you can find support for it, and raising 25 to 30 grand isn't really the hardest thing to do if other people can benefit from the distribution of that short as well.
Go for it.
Okay, I just want to add to what David is saying, that while you're out there trying to put your project together and finding money and everything, one key person that you might want to bring on board is a producer. And that producer who can be resourceful, aggressive, has connections. That producer might be someone who could pick up the phone and get you a stage, or get you free craft service, or get you camera equipment, or get you things. And a lot of not every filmmaker can express themselves well verbally, aggressive. There's a lot of different types of artists. And that's where a producer who is the yin yang of the team, the yang part is the one who can go out there and get you deals and discounts and put packages together where you may not have those connections on your own. So a partner in that regard, someone who's connected, knows people with money, whatever it is that you need, can often come in the shape of a producer who is connected.
Actually,
And what does the producer get out of being a part of that, just to produce a quality short and have that as a part of their calling card?
Yeah, go up on IMDb and you look at so many people have short after their name.
Well, Jean, our UCLA protege, who was the Academy Award nominee, produced that film, and that was
Yeah.
that showed to the world that, wow, this guy is, and he's now actually a member of the Academy too. I mean, I got to say, I've taught at UCLA for over 10 years, and one of the reasons I'm so passionate about it,
Right.
we have an extraordinary collection of students who come in and out of this program.
Exactly. And that's the way, that's where you were saying that people will, investors will come on board a project for so many different reasons.
Yep.
And a producer will too. You know, if I like this, I want to help get this made for a variety of reasons. I can either identify with it. I know this person, this story reminds me of my mother. I mean, who knows what it is, or it makes me laugh or cry, whatever emotion it can convey, bring out in you, has a lot of value.
Shorts are sometimes more personal than full-length features for that.
Yeah.
Joe, I have two quick questions for you, and then I'll go back to everybody else's questions. Number one, has anyone come up and just offered you money as you're on the festival circuit?
On the festival circuit, no, that has not happened quite yet.
With that question, that can mean a lot of things, Joe.
Yeah, I know, right?
You know what I mean, for a project. And then number two, we're also talking about money. It costs money to put your film on the festival circuit, and you're investing in yourself, hoping something will come of it. Did you put together a budget that you were going to say to yourself, I will put into this film for film festival?
Yeah, no, we were we had a budget from the very start, from prep all the way to post. There was money set aside for distribution. And I think that's really important, because I think that, you know, especially for first-time filmmakers, it's, you know, there are these grants out there, there's all these programs that will finance your film, but it's really hard to get into those as a first-time filmmaker. A lot of times for the first film, you're bootstrapping, you're asking all your friends for favors. I broke David's rule a little bit, whereas I moved onto a sailboat to help finance the film to save money on rent. But that was the smallest chunk of the film. Where most of our money came from were the producers. We fundraised just with friends and families, asked tons of people like, hey, can you throw in $100? Like, just literally going anywhere. And to back up what everyone said as well, it was all because of the script. The only reason we were able to make it was because people felt passionate about the script. We had over 60 people involved in the movie. All of them were volunteers. And I'm a poor kid that's grew up scrappy in the Southeast. I had no money to make a sci-fi action film at night. And it's just all about the passion behind the story and pulling all those pieces together. But yeah, to go back to the idea, the distro process, we set aside money from the start, and that was really important because we didn't want to get to the end and be, you know, spent and not be able to get it out there.
Do you mind if I ask you, and you can totally just say in percentage wise or the real money, how much money did you say to yourself, I'm willing to spend to put it on the festival circuit and try to do distribution?
I think we had $2,000 to $3,000 set aside for it.
And that's very reasonable.
Yeah, which and we might have had to be completely honest, we might have had to dip into that just a little bit, but it was somewhere in that range.
And look, it's good to do that. I don't mean never spend your own money. What I mean is that, yeah, and you do, when you believe in something, you want to get behind it. And I think that's great. Just, you hear stories of people sometimes bankrupting themselves too, and you gotta make sure, you know, it's like that analogy of, you know, when the plane's going down, you put your oxygen on first. You got to make sure as an artist, to a certain extent, that you have a little bit of oxygen coming in so you can breathe. Right?
Yeah, no, and I think for us too, that was really important. You know, for me, like, I didn't have a lot of money set aside, so it was like, I don't want to put my own money into this unless other people believe in it too. So it was like, you know, it's finding that balance.
Did you give people like an acknowledgement in the end credits who had financed it, or what did you do for them in return?
Yeah, so for the different amounts that they would contribute, you'd get a special thanks, or if you know, gave more, you'd get an associate producer credit, and if you gave a lot, you'd get an executive producer credit. So it just depends on, you know, the level. But yeah, and it, you know, it was a great experience, and everyone who contributed really enjoyed being a part of it, getting the updates, all of that. So a lot of times I think asking for people to invest was a very scary thing for me. And I think a lot of times people that care about you and believe in you want to support you. So don't, you know, hesitate to reach out when you have something you believe in.
Did you consider giving them first opportunity rights to finance if it gets independently produced as a feature? Was that a part of the discussion too, or was it a different kind of?
We didn't have any financiers that were that big that it fully made sense for.
Because that's exciting too. Even if nothing comes of it, just saying, hey, if this goes somewhere, you could still be a part of the party, right? And that incentivizes, because the whole thing, right, is you want to get everyone as excited, everyone who works on your short, you want to have them as excited about it as the filmmaker is, right? And to the extent you can do that, then everything just branches out, and you never know what conversation someone else might have somewhere that's going to be the game changer in your career.
Well, we only have time for one more question. And so I apologize to Cindy. We didn't get to your question about if the panelists have any ideas of short film strategy ideas once the film is completed the festival run. But hopefully we've kind of given you some little things as we talked. And Jared asked, which is my question too, how do you get Regina King to star in your short? But unfortunately, David has left. So we can't get that answer. But
I can throw some very quick light about that. I mean, not Regina King. But I would say that I worked with a handful of name actors, and the way to simply get to them is, first of all, do your research. Don't go by like, that's a star, I want them to do it. Find why that would be value add to that actor, and really like when I'm directing or when I'm producing, we really put in the work of watching what the actor had done. And then seeing, okay, this is my list of 10 actors that I want to reach out to. And then when we were reaching out to each of their people, their managers, our email was short, succinct, and it very clearly stated why we think this actor is a fit for the role. And almost 9 out of 10, I would say, times I have been able to get a response out of the actors, even if it is to say no. And it's because they understand that I'm not just shooting my shot in the dark saying, hey, I just want somebody famous to appear in this film. No, it was a very specific reason why this actor. And fortunately, the last few films that I have either directed or produced has had recognizable faces in it. And I think it's just because we put in a lot of homework into going, this actor, and this is why. And we were also willing to build it ground up rather than, it's great, you get Regina King and then you reach out to any other actor, they'll say yes. But the ground up is also the way to go, which is you get to the B-level actor first for, your third role, your third hierarchy, like in the hierarchy of 1, 2, 3. You go to this actor, say, can I get you on board? Once you get on board, then you reach out to bigger actors saying, hey, we already have that actor for this role. People start, it's a question of vetting yourself and like giving them, you have done the homework. So the actor goes, okay, if that person who I've seen in that is saying yes, there may be merit to the script. Let me read the script. But again, it kind of always is going to boil down to what Joe said. You have to, or David also said it, you have to have a script that's good. If it sucks, doesn't matter what other things you do about it, it's not going to work.
very good point. And then we do have time for Jessica's last question, which might be more towards David, but are there any legal documents or agreements you'd recommend if you get a name for a short which guarantees them a role in the feature, or is that necessarily useful? Is this called an attachment agreement?
Yeah, that was the concept of, and it's an interesting thing. And obviously the idea of getting a star into a short's very tricky because they're non-monetizable, right? So it's really about the larger vision of really liking the director or really liking the subject and the star wanting to be a part of something that could lead to something else and having it the right fit. And I've done a bunch of those deals for very well-known artists over the years, but it is tricky because you have that dynamic. But one of the things, I think one of the things that comes up a lot when you talk to actors about appearing in shorts is, they'll often, render the services, but usually then the rights are owned by the filmmaker. And if this thing gets developed, they're not really along for the ride, right? Obviously, if there's a star in it, then there's a good chance that if it gets developed further, they're going to want that star to come back. But for an artist, you're really not getting paid that much. And if you do something great, it's sometimes you're out of luck because they could simply go recast the role that you helped get everyone excited about. So under those circumstances, yeah, I mean, what I would recommend when I'm representing artists is, and it's limited too, right? You don't just, sometimes you could say, hey, in the event that this gets developed into a full-length feature, the artist has a first opportunity rights to negotiate to play that role subject to good faith negotiation. So you don't even need to get into the terms of it. Sometimes you limit that to just if it's produced and developed for an independent film as opposed to a studio, because the filmmaker can't be that hamstrung. Sometimes you could say, hey, you'll have the first opportunity to act in it, but if the financiers disagree after good faith negotiation, then maybe we'll give you an EP credit with some kind of producing fee to be negotiated in good faith. So you're still carrying along with the project. And I think, I'm an artist rep. I work at United Talent Agency. Before that, I worked at the 2 top talent boutiques in the world. So I've always been on the talent side. But I think if I were a filmmaker and I were looking to cast, I think, yeah, you want to provide them with incentives to talk about that short, to be attached to that short in a way that makes sense. So they can leverage all of their momentum, which then you can kind of harness as you try to package that film and turn it into something which can be monetizable. But yeah, that can be done through a simple attachment agreement or a first opportunity agreement. Sometimes those are limited to a certain period of time, saying, hey, you're only attached to play the role for 3 years because if more, or 18 months, because if more time passes, then it's like, well, okay, the financier needs some more freedom if they can't set it up with you attached. So it doesn't have to be a perpetual attachment. And a lot of times the financier or filmmaker will say, no, we just need that flexibility. But of course, if you're great, we're going to bring you back in. And that's a very delicate discussion that really, and the conversation really changes on a project by project basis.
Thank you. That was wonderful information. And I know the filmmakers appreciate it. We actually are out of time, but you all gave such great information that I hope that everybody who attended got some really helpful tips that will help them as they go along the festival circuit. I don't know if you can see everybody, but can we all just kind of virtually give a round of applause to our panelists? And it's always tricky on Zoom to do it that way. But I thank you all for such terrific information. And again, our panelists teach wonderful classes at UCLA Extension that you can take to get more information for. I'm not sure if anybody else has to say anything. If not, I'll kind of give, oh, there we go. We got some nice people in chat typing in saying thank you. You can definitely type in the chat to say thank you.
And I say thank you too.
And then a personal thank you from Pascal. And so then I'm just going to kind of give a quick wrap up and a reminder of what else, and then we'll go enjoy Friday evening, shall we? As a reminder, we'll be holding a series of live panels over the next 2 days. So please take a look at our scheduled events on the festival website that you were walked through earlier. Join us for the first filmmaker panel tomorrow at 10 a.m., which will feature filmmakers for the films Aisha, Run Free, Dreamer, and Beauty in the East. Don't forget to watch the affiliated films before each panel. Our festival awards ceremony will begin at 2:30 p.m. on Sunday, followed by a networking event at 3 p.m. We'll be raffling off a free course, free extension course, people, at the awards ceremony, so you don't want to miss it. If you haven't done so, don't forget to vote for our Audience Choice Awards at the UCLA Film Festival website. And that really matters to the filmmakers. So I highly encourage you to make sure you vote for the Audience Award. Also, please visit the Entertainment Studies website to learn about our free upcoming seminars, scholarships, and fall classes. Fall is currently opening for enrollment, and you can find our catalog of classes in the chat. I'm sure it'll be, yep, right there. Thank you again, everybody, and enjoy the rest of the festival.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.